The blood-curdling scream that echoed through the saloon silenced every patron, leaving only the haunting stillness of a room where moments before laughter and piano music had reigned. Olivia Neill stood frozen by the bar, the shattered remains of a whiskey glass at her feet, and her face drained of all color as she stared at the man who had just walked through the swinging doors. It was 1876 in Golden, Colorado, a mining town nestled at the foot of the Rocky Mountains where fortunes were made and lost as quickly as the seasons changed. The town had grown rapidly since the gold rush, now boasting a proper main street lined with businesses, a courthouse, and enough saloons to keep even the thirstiest miners satisfied. Olivia had been working at the Prospector's Dream Saloon for nearly 8 months, serving drinks and deflecting unwanted advances with practiced ease. Her auburn hair was always neatly pinned, her green eyes sharp and observant. She'd built a careful life here, a life that was now crumbling before her very eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Miss Neill," drawled Garrett Xanders from his regular spot at the corner table. The tall cowboy set down his cards, concern etched across his sun-weathered features. His eyes followed her gaze to the newcomer, a barrel-chested man with a cruel smile and eyes like chips of ice. Garrett had been watching Olivia since she first arrived in town. Not in the way the other men did, with hungry eyes and grasping hands, but with quiet curiosity. She kept to herself, worked hard, and seemed to be running from something or someone. The newcomer spotted Olivia and his smile widened. "Well, well, well, if it isn't my darling wife. Thought you could hide forever, did you?" The word wife sent a ripple of whispers through the saloon. Olivia's hands trembled as she took a step backward. "I'm not your wife, Eugene," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The papers were signed. The judge granted it." Eugene laughed, a sound like gravel being crushed. "Papers can get lost, sweetheart, and judges." "Well, they have unfortunate accidents." Garrett stood, his chair scraping loudly against the wooden floor. At 6'3", with broad shoulders and calloused hands that spoke of hard labor, he cut an imposing figure. His dark brown hair curled slightly at the nape of his neck, and his hazel eyes were now fixed intently on Eugene. "The lady doesn't seem happy to see you," he said, his voice even but with an undercurrent of steel. Eugene's gaze flickered to Garrett, sizing him up. "This isn't your business, cowboy. When a man threatens a woman in the Prospector's Dream, it becomes my business." Garrett moved to stand beside Olivia. "Especially when that woman is clearly scared." Eugene's hand twitched toward the gun at his hip. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Neither do you," Garrett replied. The tension in the room was palpable. Olivia felt the walls closing in, the familiar sensation of panic rising in her chest. This was exactly what she'd been running from Eugene finding her, bringing his violence and cruelty back into her life. "I think you should leave," came another voice. Samuel Porter, the saloon owner, had emerged from the back room, shotgun in hand. "We don't want trouble here." Eugene glanced around the room, noting the unfriendly faces and Porter's steady grip on the shotgun, his lips curled into a sneer. "This isn't over, Livy, not by a long shot." With that, he backed toward the door, eyes locked on Olivia until the last moment. When the doors swung closed behind him, she sagged against the bar, her legs barely supporting her. "You all right, Miss Neill?" Samuel asked, lowering the shotgun. She nodded mechanically, though she was far from all right. Eugene had found her. The nightmare was starting again. "Thank you, Mr. Porter," she managed to say. I should go." Garrett touched her elbow gently. "Let me walk you home. He might be waiting." Under normal circumstances, Olivia would have refused. She'd learned to keep men at arm's length, especially in a town where most saw her as nothing more than a potential conquest. But tonight, the thought of walking alone with Eugene, possibly lurking in the shadows, was too much to bear. "Thank you," she whispered. The night air was cool against her flushed skin as they stepped outside. Garrett's eyes scanned the street, alert for any sign of Eugene. Olivia hugged herself, trying to control the trembling that had overtaken her body. "He's your husband." Garrett asked as they walked, keeping his voice low. Ex-husband, she corrected. Or at least he was supposed to be. I got the divorce granted in Denver last year after. She trailed off, unwilling to speak the horror aloud. Garrett didn't press. You've been running since then. Olivia nodded. I thought I'd gone far enough, changed my name enough times, but he always finds me. They reached her modest boarding house on the edge of town. Garrett checked the surroundings carefully before declaring it safe. He won't give up, Olivia said, standing on the porch step. He never does. Garrett removed his hat, running a hand through his hair. Miss Neill, I don't mean to overstep, but if you need help, I'm offering it. She studied him in the moonlight. Garrett Xanders had been nothing but polite in the months she'd known him. He tipped well, never got rowdy, and treated her with respect, but trusting a man again seemed impossible after what she'd endured. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. His expression softened. I know enough. I know you work harder than anyone in that saloon. I know you're kind to old Mr. Wilkins even when he can barely afford his drink. I know you deserve better than living in fear. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes. You don't understand. I'm damaged goods, Mr. Xanders. There's nothing worth saving here. Garrett's gaze was steady, his voice firm but gentle. You're priceless to me, Miss Neill. Everyone in this town values you, and no one, especially not that man, has the right to make you believe otherwise. The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache. It had been so long since someone had looked at her with anything other than lust or pity. Get some rest, he continued. Lock your door. I'll be watching the street tonight. He won't get near you. You can't stay out all night, she protested. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I've spent colder nights on cattle drives. This is a luxury by comparison. Reluctantly, she nodded. Thank you, Mr. Xanders. Garrett, he corrected. If I'm going to be your guardian for the night, we might as well use first names. Olivia, she replied, offering her real name for the first time in months. Good night, Olivia. You're safe tonight. As she closed and locked the door behind her, Olivia leaned against it, her mind racing. Eugene's appearance had shattered the fragile peace she'd found in Golden. By morning, the whole town would know about her past, or at least the version Eugene chose to tell. She would have to run again, start over somewhere new. The thought exhausted her to her core. Outside, Garrett settled himself on a bench across from her boarding house, adjusting his coat against the night chill. He couldn't explain the protective instinct that had surged through him when he saw the terror in Olivia's eyes. All he knew was that the woman who had quietly captivated him for months was in danger, and he wasn't about to let her face it alone. Dawn found Garrett still at his post, stiff from the cold but vigilant. He'd spotted Eugene twice during the night, lurking in the shadows, but the man had retreated when he realized Garrett wasn't leaving. As the first rays of sunlight touched the street, Olivia emerged, carrying a small valise. You're leaving, Garrett observed, standing to meet her. She nodded, her face drawn with exhaustion. I have to. Once Eugene starts spreading stories about me, no one will want me here anyway. You underestimate this town, Olivia, and you certainly underestimate me, she shook her head. You don't know what he's capable of. The things he did to me, the lies he told, I can't go through that again. Garrett stepped closer. Then don't face him alone, let me help you. Why would you risk yourself for me? His eyes softened. Because in the 8 months you've been here, watching you has become the best part of my days. Because you deserve peace. And because men like Eugene need to learn they can't own another person. Olivia hesitated, torn between the instinct to run and the desperate wish to finally stop running. He'll hurt you. He's done it before to others who tried to help me. I can take care of myself, Garrett assured her, and I have friends in this town, good people who won't stand for a man terrorizing a woman. The stagecoach would be arriving soon. Olivia had to decide. What exactly are you proposing? Stay, let me talk to Sheriff Donovan. Eugene has to have a wanted poster somewhere with his name on it. Men like that don't suddenly turn violent, they leave a trail. Hope fluttered in her chest, dangerous and fragile. And if there isn't one? Then we fight him another way, together. The word together hung between them, weighted with possibility. Olivia had been alone for so long, carrying her burden in solitary suffering. The idea of sharing it was both terrifying and tempting. "One day," she said finally. "I'll give it one day." Relief washed over Garrett's face. "That's all I'm asking. Now let's get some breakfast. Everything looks better with a full stomach." They walked to Mary's diner, where the smell of fresh bread and coffee welcomed them. The early morning crowd of miners and merchants turned to stare as they entered, whispers following in their wake. Eugene had clearly been busy. "Ignore them," Garrett murmured, guiding her to a corner table. Mary herself came to take their order, her usually friendly face tight with disapproval. "Morning," she said curtly. "2 breakfast specials, Mary, and coffee, please," Garrett ordered, acting as if nothing was amiss. Mary's eyes flickered to Olivia. "Is it true what they're saying, that you ran from your husband after stealing from him?" Olivia's face flushed with shame and anger. "No, it's not true. I ran because he nearly beat me to death." The bluntness of her statement silenced the nearby tables. Mary's expression softened immediately. "I'm sorry for asking, dear. Terrible thing to say to you first thing in the morning." "It's all right," Olivia replied. "Eugene is good at making people believe his lies." Mary nodded, shooting a disapproving look at the other customers. "Well, your breakfast is on the house today, and don't you worry about what anyone in this town thinks. We've all got pasts." After she left, Olivia stared at her hands. "It's already starting." "The rumors, the judgment, and it's already stopping," Garrett pointed out. "Mary believed you right away, others will too." They ate in companionable silence, both aware of the occasional stares but choosing to ignore them. Afterward, Garrett suggested they visit the sheriff immediately. Sheriff James Donovan was a grizzled veteran of both the Civil War and frontier law enforcement. His office was sparse but organized, with wanted posters lining one wall and a gun rack behind his desk. "Xanders," he greeted as they entered. "Miss Neill, I've been hearing some interesting stories this morning." "Most of them probably false," Garrett replied. "We're here about Eugene. What's his last name, Olivia?" "Harker," she supplied. "Eugene Harker." Donovan's eyebrows rose. "Harker." "From Missouri," Olivia's breath caught. "You know of him?" The sheriff stood and moved to his collection of wanted posters, rifling through a stack on his desk. "If it's the same man, I received this about 3 months ago." He handed them a poster with a crude sketch that was unmistakably Eugene. The charges listed included fraud, assault, and suspected murder of a judge in Denver. "That's him," Olivia whispered, her fingers tracing the paper. "He killed Judge Williams, the one who granted my divorce." "Looks that way," Donovan said grimly. "I haven't seen him in town, though." "He arrived yesterday," Garrett explained. "At the prospector's dream, claims Miss Neill is still his wife." Donovan's eyes narrowed. "Well, according to this, he's wanted in 3 territories. I'll keep an eye out for him. If you see him, Miss Neill, you come straight to me, you hear." Olivia nodded, a weight lifting from her shoulders. There was proof of Eugene's crimes. She wasn't crazy or paranoid. The danger was real, and now others could see it too. As they left the sheriff's office, Garrett noticed the change in Olivia's demeanor. She stood straighter, her steps more confident. "Feel better?" he asked. "I feel validated," she admitted. "For years, Eugene convinced everyone I was unstable, making up stories. Having proof feels like getting a piece of myself back." Garrett smiled. "Good. Now, what do you say we find Eugene before he causes more trouble?" They didn't have to look far. Eugene was waiting outside the prospector's dream, leaning against a hitching post with an air of menace. His eyes lit up when he spotted Olivia. "There she is," he called, loud enough for passers-by to hear. "The wife who couldn't handle her duties, so she ran off like a thief in the night." Olivia tensed beside Garrett, but she didn't retreat. "Everyone here knows you're lying, Eugene. The sheriff has your wanted poster." Eugene's confident smirk faltered briefly before returning. "You always were good at spinning tales, Livy, but we both know the truth. You're nothing without me, damaged goods that no one else would want." Garrett stepped forward, his hand resting casually near his holstered gun. I'd be careful making accusations when you're wanted for murder, Harker. A small crowd had gathered, drawn by the confrontation. Eugene glanced around, noting the increasingly hostile faces. These good people don't know what she's really like, Eugene tried, his voice taking on a persuasive tone. Ask her about the baby she lost. Ask her why no doctor in Denver would treat her afterward. Olivia went pale, her hands clenched at her sides. You pushed me down the stairs, she said, her voice trembling with rage. I was carrying your child and you pushed me because dinner was cold. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. A woman near the front, the town's midwife, made a sound of disgust. She's lying, Eugene insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. No, she's not, came a new voice. Sheriff Donovan had arrived, his deputy beside him. Eugene Harker, you're under arrest for fraud, assault, and the murder of Judge William Williams in Denver. Eugene's hand moved toward his gun, but Garrett was faster. In one smooth motion, he drew and aimed, his expression stone cold. Don't, he warned. For a tense moment, it seemed Eugene might risk it anyway. But surrounded by hostile townspeople and facing two guns, he slowly raised his hands. This isn't over, Livy, he spat as Donovan handcuffed him. It is for you, the sheriff replied. You'll hang for killing that judge. As they led Eugene away, Olivia's legs finally gave out. Garrett caught her, supporting her weight easily as he guided her to a nearby bench. It's over, he murmured, holding her hands in his. He can't hurt you anymore. Tears streamed down her face, years of fear and pain finally finding release. I never believed anyone would believe me over him. Around them, the townspeople who had witnessed the confrontation approached cautiously. Mary from the diner was the first to speak. Miss Neill, I'm sorry for doubting you this morning. Man like that deserves worse than hanging, if you ask me. Others murmured agreement, offering awkward but sincere apologies and support. Olivia accepted them with grace, though she maintained her grip on Garrett's hands like a lifeline. When the crowd finally dispersed, Garrett helped her stand. What do you want to do now? He asked. Olivia looked up at the clear Colorado sky, feeling truly free for the first time in years. I want to stay in Golden. I want to build a life without looking over my shoulder. Garrett's smile warmed her to her toes. I was hoping you'd say that. In the weeks that followed, Eugene's trial was swift. Witnesses from Denver arrived to testify about Judge Williams' murder, and Olivia herself spoke about the abuse she had endured. When the guilty verdict was announced, she felt nothing but numb relief. Eugene would hang, and her nightmare would truly be over. Throughout it all, Garrett was by her side, a steady, patient presence that asked for nothing but offered everything. He respected her need for space and time to heal, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. Summer turned to fall, and Golden's aspen trees blazed with golden color that matched the town's name. Olivia continued working at the prospector's dream, though now as the manager rather than a serving girl. Samuel Porter had recognized her head for numbers and business, promoting her when his arthritis made it too difficult to handle the books. On a crisp October evening, Garrett invited her for a ride into the foothills. They followed a trail he knew well, climbing steadily until they reached a rocky outcropping that overlooked the valley where Golden nestled, the lights of the town beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. It's beautiful, Olivia breathed, taking in the panorama. I've been coming here for years, Garrett said, spreading a blanket on a flat section of rock. Whenever I need to think or make a decision. They sat side by side, sharing a simple meal of bread, cheese, and apples. The comfortable silence between them spoke of the bond that had grown over the difficult summer months. I bought land, Garrett said suddenly. West of town. Good grazing land with a creek running through it. Olivia turned to him, surprised. You're staying in Golden. I thought you were just passing through when we met, he chuckled. I was, but plans change, people change them. The implication hung in the air between them, full of possibility. Olivia studied his face in the fading light, seeing the hope and uncertainty there. Garrett, you don't have to say anything, he interrupted gently. I know you're still healing. I just wanted you to know that I'm not going anywhere. She reached for his hand, linking their fingers together. I've been doing a lot of thinking too, about the future, about what I want. Garrett waited, patient as always. For so long, I couldn't imagine a future beyond the next day, the next town I'd run to. Eugene took that from me, the ability to hope, to plan. She took a deep breath. But I'm finding it again, with you. His grip on her hand tightened slightly. Olivia, all I want is for you to be happy. If that's with me, there's nothing in this world that would make me more grateful. But if you need more time, I don't, she interrupted, surprising herself with her certainty. Time won't change how I feel about you. It will just delay me saying it. In the gathering twilight, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his, their first kiss. It was gentle and questioning at first, then deepening as Garrett pulled her closer. When they finally parted, both were breathless. I love you, Garrett whispered against her hair. I have since the moment you stood up to that drunk miner who tried to grab you, and you dumped his whiskey right in his lap without spilling a single other drink on your tray. Olivia laughed, remembering the incident from her early days at the saloon. That was the first week I was in Golden. You can't have loved me then. I admired you then, he corrected. The loving came later, a little more each day. She rested her head against his shoulder, watching as the first stars appeared above them. I love you too. I think I was afraid to admit it, even to myself. Loving someone means being vulnerable again. Being vulnerable isn't the same as being weak, Garrett said. It takes more strength to open your heart after it's been broken than it does to keep it locked away. The wisdom of his words settled over her like a warm blanket. When did you get so smart, Cowboy? Must be all that time spent under the stars, contemplating life's mysteries, he teased, then grew serious again. Olivia, I know you said once that you're damaged goods, but that's not how I see you. You're the strongest, most resilient person I know. You're priceless to me. Tears pricked at her eyes, but for once they were tears of joy rather than sorrow. Ask me, she whispered. Garrett pulled back slightly, searching her face. Ask you what? Ask me what I think you brought me up here to ask. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by a smile that outshone the emerging stars. He shifted, kneeling before her on the blanket. Olivia Neill, will you marry me? Build a life with me on that land west of town. It won't always be easy, but I promise you'll never face another hardship alone. She cupped his face in her hands, memorizing every detail of this moment. Yes, Garrett Xanders. Yes to all of it. Their wedding took place on Christmas Eve, with snow dusting Golden streets like sugar on a cake. The whole town turned out, the same people who had witnessed Eugene's threats now celebrating Olivia's new beginning. Mary from the diner baked the wedding cake. Samuel Porter gave the bride away. Sheriff Donovan stood as Garrett's best man. And when the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the cheer that went up seemed to shake the snow from the pine branches outside. The land Garrett had purchased became the foundation of the X-Bar and Ranch, combining their initials in a brand that would become well known throughout Colorado territory. Their modest cabin grew over the years as their family expanded, first with the birth of their son Thomas in 1878, followed by twin girls, Rebecca and Rachel, in 1880. Olivia never forgot the darkness she had escaped, but it no longer defined her. She used her experience to help other women in similar situations, offering shelter at the ranch and working with Sheriff Donovan to ensure that abusive men faced consequences for their actions. 10 years after their wedding, on a warm summer evening much like the one when Garrett had proposed, they sat on the porch of their now substantial home, watching their children chase fireflies in the twilight. You ever think about how different things might have been? Garrett asked, his arm around her shoulders. If Eugene hadn't found you that night, Olivia considered the question. I think he would have found me eventually, but I might not have stayed to face him if you hadn't been there. And I might still be drifting from town to town, never settling down, Garrett added. It's strange how the worst moments can lead to the best ones. Not so strange, Olivia replied, leaning into his embrace. Just life with all its unexpected turns. From inside the house came the cry of their newest addition, 4-month-old Daniel, awake from his evening nap. "I'll get him," Garrett said, rising. "You rest." As she watched him go, Olivia marveled at the journey that had brought her here. From a terrified woman running for her life to the confident matriarch of a thriving ranch and family. The scars of her past remained, some visible on her skin, others hidden deeper, but they had faded with time and love. She had once believed herself to be damaged beyond repair, worth less than nothing. Now she knew better. She was, as Garrett had always insisted, priceless, not because of any man's validation, but because she had found her own worth and fought for the life she deserved. The sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Her children's laughter mingled with the familiar sounds of the ranch settling for the night. And as Garrett returned with their baby son cradled against his chest, Olivia Neill Xanders knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. In Golden, Colorado, she had found not just safety, but a true home. And in the arms of a steadfast cowboy, she had found not just love, but redemption.